This book changed my life. As an artist, I have felt stagnant over the past several years. Sure, I've had bursts of inspiration and have created art that I'm proud of, but I knew I had a lot to work on internally. I first heard about the Artist's Way a few years ago. Many people have raved about one of the tools in the book called morning pages. Morning pages are 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing. I didn't feel a strong urge to go through the 12-week course back then, but I have attempted morning pages several times. I would do morning pages for a few months, completely stop out of the blue, and then pick it back up again. I often found it frustrating having to write 3 long pages in the morning, every single day. In June 2021, I finally went out and bought the book. I don't remember what got me to buy the book, but when I got home and read the introduction, I felt a lot of resistance, especially when I read about the second tool, artist dates. An artist date is one day out of your week when you devote quality time to your creative self. At the time, I was still having difficulty going out by myself ever since the pandemic, and I've gone into a deep recluse for a while. I also had some resistance towards various concepts in the book, so I put the book on my shelf until I felt more receptive. Every few months, I would pick up the book, flip through the pages, and put it back on the shelf. At one point, I told myself that when I feel ready spiritually, mentally, and physically, then I'll officially start the course. I'm ready, universe. I'm ready. On January 2nd, 2023, I finally decided to embark on a 12-week-long spiritual journey to higher creativity. This is how it went. So I'm officially starting week 1 of the Artist's Way, and I actually started morning pages the day before, on the 1st of January. My days are getting thrown off. I thought January 1st was a Monday, which is totally fine because yesterday's morning pages was like a trial run with the new notebook. I've been experimenting with different sizes of notebooks. The last time I did morning pages, it was in a composition notebook and the pages were much larger. So on average, it took me almost like an hour to complete all 3 pages, and I just hated having to spend that much time in the morning. I'm glad I bought a much smaller notebook, which I got from Daiso. I think this time around, I was able to complete the 3 pages in less than 40 minutes. And so when I got to the section about artist dates, that's when I felt the most resistant in my body. This was around the time when I started going into deep recluse. I didn't want to go out. I just wanted to be at home all the time. And that was the main reasons why I didn't start the Artist's Way journey. But now into the new year, I'm starting to feel this positive shift within me, and I'm finally eager to go out and do the things I used to love doing before the pandemic. So ever since I started on January 2nd, I have been getting very vivid dreams. I don't know if it's because I was doing morning pages, probably not, but I just noticed that I've been getting dreams every night, and I haven't had vivid dreams like this in a while. So it's interesting that it started coming up when I started doing my morning pages. Today was also my first artist date. I'm actually not feeling the best because I'm gonna get my period soon. I'm just not in the mood to do too much today, but I did go out and buy myself some flowers. So it's officially week 2 and I am gonna go on my second artist date. I am gonna go to an old public library that I used to frequent as a child. I have very fond memories of this place. I used to go there with my dad a lot, and every time I think about this public library, I think about how much fun I had. I think this will really make my inner child happy. I think right now I feel a bit of anxiety because ever since the pandemic, I've become a lot more introverted and socially awkward. So going to places by myself, it's still kind of hard for me. But I know that going to artist dates every week is gonna really bring me out of my shell. So I probably spent maybe an hour and a half in there, and it was really cool. I'm really enjoying my artist dates so far, and I definitely feel like I'm really coming back to myself. The fact that I'm going out doing things that I enjoy or have been wanting to do for a while, it just makes me so happy. I'm so glad that I am doing the artist way, because it's pushing me to go out there, have fun, and be one with my creativity. So it's the end of week 2. So far, I'm feeling great. I have been very productive. I am on a roll with, making videos, working on my creative projects, and I definitely feel like it has a lot to do with certain things that I've changed in my routine. Like, I officially quit Instagram, so I don't have any distractions that are hindering me from doing these things. This week I definitely feel accomplished, focused, productive, really happy, and I feel so aligned. So week 3 is recovering a sense of power, and it talks a lot about anger, shame, synchronicity, and then she goes into talking about criticism. And so this got me thinking about how I deal with criticism. I think what really helps me, especially with my art, is that when I was in college, I took a lot of different art courses because I was a fine art major. And so those courses really helped me grow a thicker skin when it came to any form of criticism with my work. And I saw that criticism as just really great feedback in improving my work. So people would point out things that I wouldn't notice, and I would see that as a good thing, because I'm like, oh yeah, from like someone else's perspective, it really does help. Throughout the week, from Monday to Friday, I was high vibe. I was consistently focused, productive, happy, energetic, constantly feeling good in my body. Very good, 10 out of 10. And then towards the end of the week, I started feeling, I wouldn't say anger, because it takes a lot for me to get angry. I think the past couple of days, I've just been feeling irritable, annoyed. So just really navigating through these emotions and just rolling with it. And I think because I've been going through my spiritual journey for quite some time, I've really learned to embrace these ebbs and flows of my daily life. Like, whatever I'm feeling, I'm gonna feel it. I'm not gonna suppress it. I'm just gonna sit with it and try to understand like why I'm feeling this way. So in this chapter, she talks a lot about what types of emotions will arise when doing morning pages. There's this particular part that I read that just made me laugh, because if you remember from week 1, I mentioned how I've been getting very vivid dreams, and I still get vivid dreams almost every night. So she says, there will be a change in energy patterns. Your dreams will become stronger and clearer both by night and by day. So I guess morning pages has a lot to do with these vivid dreams, which is kind of a bit crazy to think about it. Like, how does that happen? The last part of this chapter, she talks about reading deprivation. So this week, I cannot read anything. And what's funny is that this week I was thinking of going to the bookstore for my artist date. Good thing I read this chapter before actually going there, because I would have failed immediately. I'm not going to read any books. Aside from this, obviously, I'll update how it goes this week. Okay, so it is day 2 of week 4, and I can already feel the frustration for this week. I didn't completely absorb all the information, so when I got to that part of the chapter, I just assumed it was just books. But then I read it again, and then she mentions television any type of media. And like yesterday, I was binge watching this K-drama. I really wanted to finish it, so I finished the last 4 episodes yesterday. And I didn't realize until halfway through that I was reading English subtitles. And so like, oh shoot, I failed again. Yesterday was definitely an ultimate fail, but that's okay. I have 6 days to practice this whole reading deprivation. I think this week is definitely an opportunity to really, truly be in the present moment. So it's day 2 of week 5, and I really enjoyed the reading material this week. So the first part, she talks about limits, and she's basically saying that God, source, the universe, whatever you believe in, is very abundant, and that there is no limit to what they can provide for you. Some examples that she mentioned was this woman who stayed in a very toxic work environment and stayed there because it was secure for her. She was earning a consistent income, but she was not being respected in her work field, and it was just very toxic. But once she left that toxic environment, so many doors opened up for her. Like, it was just a windfall of opportunities. It made her feel so much happier and lighter. I've had experiences like this many times in the past. God, source, the universe will give you all that you deserve when you realize that you are deserving of so much more, and you don't stay in situations that are toxic or are unhealthy. When you realize that you are so worthy of so much more, of the abundance of more positive blessings and opportunities, then that's when all these doors open up for you. I've seen it happen so many times, not just with me, but with other people I know, and it's such a beautiful thing. My favorite part from this chapter is the virtue trap. An artist must have downtime, time to do nothing. And then she goes on about how for an artist, withdrawal is necessary and that solitude is very important. Now, solitude. I love solitude. Solitude brings you back to yourself. So if we don't allow ourselves to be in solitude, to be with ourselves, a lot of times we tend to get angry, irritated, frustrated. I definitely feel those emotions when I don't have time for myself. You know, when I'm around so many different people for more than 2 hours, I get extremely drained. And so when I get back home, I need to be in my own space. I need to recharge. Once I've recharged and I am in my creative flow, I'm so full of joy. I'm so inspired. I am very energetic and happy. So it's Friday, and I wanted to share a synchronicity that I experienced yesterday. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I do believe that we each have our own spirit team, our angels, our guardian angels. So I always make sure to talk to them. So a couple days ago, I wanted to know if I was on the right path, if I was in alignment. So once in a while I'll do this, I'll ask them to show me a certain object to let me know if I'm on the right path. So usually I'll do some quick visualizations. I will close my eyes, I'll take deep breaths, and whatever image comes up in my mind is what I want them to show me. So before going to sleep, I sat on my bed, I closed my eyes, I took 3 deep breaths, and the first image that came to my mind, I had an image of a number 2 pencil. So I asked them to show me a number 2 pencil if I am on the right path. I put that out into the universe, I said it out loud, and I went to bed. And so the next day, I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna go run errands. Throughout the week, I was like, oh, I need to go to Target sometime this week. Until yesterday, I thought I was supposed to pick up my niece, but my brother-in-law was off that day. So I was already ready. I figured, you know what? Maybe this is my chance to go to Target. So I went to Target. I went through my whole to-buy list. I'm actually needed to buy a new morning pages journal because I'm almost done with the first one. I'm so proud. So yeah, I went through the notebook section. There's a lot of cute notebooks. I naturally gravitate to the next aisle, which is where all the pens are at. I needed to buy new Sharpie pens because I lost mine. So I bought that, and I'm just looking around. And then I saw my sign. I saw the number 2 pencils. I was probably there for like 5-10 seconds just looking at it. I'm like, it's here. A clear sign that I'm on the right path. And then I said silently to myself, I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So a major block in my life has always been surrounding money. A lot of this stems from my childhood and my limiting beliefs, which aren't my own, but has been instilled within me all throughout my childhood to my adult life. I've always had negative feelings towards money. And so it wasn't until 2020 when I did the inner work in rewiring my beliefs surrounding money. Ever since I did the work, especially in 2020, that was the year where I felt most abundant, most prosperous. Even though I had done that work, I think 2021 into 2022, I kind of fell off of that and I went back to like my old mindset. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I know that God is abundant. I know that I am worthy of so much. I'm really glad that she brings this up for this week, even though reading throughout the material, it did bring a little bit of anxiety, not as much as before. A lot of this doesn't trigger me the way it used to. I love the part of the chapter where she talks about luxury. So this week I'm going to think about what I feel is luxurious to me and really give myself that and see what happens. Today is Friday and I want to share a couple of things. So first of all, I took myself out to go shopping. When I think about luxury, I think about comfort. I love cozy, comfortable clothes. And so I wanted to buy a new pair of joggers. I also bought these pair of hoop earrings. I've been wanting to buy large ones like this for a while. And I also got some rings. This is one of them. I will say that once I left the store, I felt abundant. I remember I was walking to my car, the wind blowing in my hair, and I was like, thank you, God. Thank you for your abundance. Thank you for this day. Just thanking myself for actually taking myself out and really seeing the value in me and recognizing that, yes, I am worthy of buying these things for myself because I deserve it. So there was one big realization I had a few days ago, and it was from a video I saw online. I think she was a coach. She talks about how if you don't feel like you have money blocks, perhaps you have receiving blocks. For some reason that blew my mind, even though in my gut I knew I had trouble receiving, but to actually hear someone say that out loud, it just like opened up doors for me. I was like, wait a minute, this makes total sense. I feel like for me, it's definitely a combination of the two. Having these limiting beliefs with money because of what I was exposed to as a child, and also these receiving blocks, which I think is a huge factor in this for me. Because when I think about how I feel when I receive things from people, I feel like I'm burdening them. That has always been a huge thing for me, is that I always felt like the change in voice, guys. I always felt like I was a burden to people. And I know it has to do with my childhood, not feeling like I deserve to receive those things, or just asking for things that I want because I feel like I don't deserve it. It's something that I know I need to work on. I always felt uncomfortable only receiving. I was constantly giving. But yeah, so that's what I realized this week, and it's very healing. So I feel like each week the material just gets better and better. Like there's so many valuable insights and wisdom. Like, oh my goodness, Julia. So in this chapter, she talks about perfectionism, taking risks, and jealousy. I'm definitely a perfectionist. There was this part in the chapter where I was just like, oh my gosh, this just totally makes sense why I grew up with self-worth issues. I feel like, especially with my art, I am always trying to perfect it. And then the last part where she talks about jealousy, I've learned a lot about jealousy through one of my favorite books, The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. That one opened my eyes. When you can actually see it from a different perspective and see jealousy as a conduit to what you truly want. Like, jealousy shows you what you want to do, but you're not taking action towards it. And so when you see someone have something that you want and you see someone achieving what you've always dreamt of, that's only a sign for you to actually go after it. Like, for example, I see an artist who is successful in their art business and they have a successful online shop and they have over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I sit here and think, wow, this person is showing me what I'm also capable of doing. And so that triggers me to take action towards it. And instead of sending that person negative vibes and negative energy, send that person praise. When you do that, you're opening a whole floodgate of possibilities for you too. When you support others, you will get that for yourself too. This chapter talks a lot about survival and seeing loss as a gain. When hit by loss, ask the right question. What's next? Instead of why me? So after reading this part of the chapter, it got me thinking about the past couple of years. I never really talked about it in my videos. Actually, I never even mentioned it. But over a year ago, I just had this urge to put myself out there. So by putting myself out there, I meant submitting my work to different agencies. I don't know what made me think of doing this, but I wanted to see if I was able to connect with an agency and have them represent me. I've never worked with an agency before, so I just thought, why not? Let me just put myself out there, put my name out there and see what happens. I submitted some of my work to a few agencies that really connected with my values. There was one particular one that I was really hoping for, and I never got a response from any of them. And now I'm totally fine with it, but weeks and a couple months after submitting my work and not hearing back from any of them, I felt discouraged and I felt like I wasn't good enough. I know my work is good, but it must not be good enough for them. It made me sad and discouraged, and I didn't take the time to actually mourn those losses. And other loss that I think about is the time when my YouTube channel kind of went downhill in a way. I wouldn't say completely downhill, but when I started my spiritual awakening in 2016, that's when my channel started to shift. And a lot of my subscribers at the time most likely didn't understand what I was going through, because my content was constantly shifting and I would take hiatuses. At one point, I moved this current channel to my old channel, which was where I had my minimalism content, and I moved there for several months. And so ever since then, I lost so many subscribers on this channel. I've probably lost 4,000 plus subscribers since then, and it's been hard to build that back up. And it's been really frustrating, and I constantly think about that time when I had a hard time spiritually, and so it really affected my content. So this week, I definitely want to take some time to mourn all those losses. Mourn the loss of those failed opportunities that I tried to go after. Mourn the loss of a huge chunk of subscribers that I lost over the past several years. And most importantly, mourn the loss of the old version of me. And the next thing she talks about is age and time, product and process. This one hits the nail because I mean, I'm 35 currently. I'm gonna be 36 next month. I know my 30s is actually not even that old, but I still have this mindset of I feel like I lost so much time. I wish I had, studied abroad in my 20s, and I feel like it's too late. I need to snap out of it and tell myself that it is possible. Age does not matter. I constantly have to remind myself of Oprah's story and how she wasn't successful until her mid 30s to her early 40s. And look at her now. She is one of the most famous and inspiring women in the world. I feel like it's been a long time since I picked up the camera. I just haven't been feeling well. I got sick, but anyway, I'm like halfway through week 9. I have been looking through my first morning pages journal because the first task for week 9, she has you read your morning pages. It's interesting because as I'm reading through these pages, I remember exactly how I felt that day, what I was doing, and it's interesting to read back on all of the dreams I've had the past couple of months. Mentally, spiritually, it's just been hard the past couple of weeks. I'm definitely just trying to be gentle with myself, taking the time I need to sit and do nothing. Be here right now and trying to keep myself grounded. Today's weather has been a clear representation of what I'm going through internally. So today is day 3 of week 10, and I can't believe we're already at week 10. I relaunched my digital art commissions, which wasn't officially open to the public for a while. I'm putting that offer into the world and just trusting God and the universe that this will reach the right people and that I will gain genuine clients from this. Let's see how it goes. So this week she talks about workaholicism and competition. Whenever you are angered about someone else beating you out, remember this. The foot race mentality is always the ego's demand to be not just good, but also first and best. All people are influenced by other people. And this made me think about this quote from Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, one of my top favorite books ever. Everything has been done, but it hasn't been done by you. We're all unique individuals, and we have different ways that we can go about putting this particular idea out into the world. Like, sure, someone's put this idea and you resonate with it, but you could put your own spin on it. And I think that's so beautiful. It's day 4 of week 11. I can't believe we're almost done with the course. The first essay from this chapter, my favorite so far. She talks about acceptance. As an artist, I write whether I think it's any good or not. I shoot movies other people may hate. I sketch bad sketches to say, I was in this room, I was happy. The past few years have been feeling very stagnant for me. No matter what, I continue to show up. I continue to show up because this is what I love. This is what gives me so much fuel. This is what fills my soul. It shouldn't be about receiving praise from others. Like, sure, that's a bonus, but what the main focus should be is just creating to create, because you feel so called to create. You have this passion towards this certain thing. No matter how long it takes, you gotta keep showing up because it's important to you. Week 12 of The Artist's Way. It's so bittersweet, honestly. This week is actually my birthday week, which I thought was so perfect to end The Artist's Way on my birthday week when I turn a year older. It just has so much depth and meaning to it for me. After this 12-week course, I'm transforming into this beautiful and more wise woman. And it's just so beautiful to think about. My birthday was a couple of days ago, and I have to say, I had this whole plan for my birthday I wanted to do my last artist date for this 12-week course on my birthday. I thought I would be so perfect, right? But I'm feeling a little bit congested and under the weather. I just decided to stay home. Even though it didn't go as planned, I'm not stressing. I have many more days after this 12-week course to go on more artist dates. So in this last chapter, she talks about trusting. Once we trigger an internal yes by affirming our truest goals and desires, the universe mirrors that yes and expands it. Oh, I love that quote. So the last essay is called Escape Velocity. Say you're gonna leave to go on a trip, and then your partner is trying to stop you from going. Or another example that she mentions was that you're trying to leave your toxic job, but then your boss gives you a huge raise. And what Julia Cameron is saying is that all of this is a test to not give in. I've definitely gone through many of these types of tests, and I have failed miserably, but I've gotten to this point in my spiritual journey where I can really detect all of these tests. And I have been very strong in just like standing my ground. And when people are trying to put all their fears on me and all their projections, I just like shield them away because I'm like, no, this is what I want. And I know you have some sort of fear towards whatever I want to do, but I don't. I fully believe that this is gonna work. So I still have a few days left of this last week. I'm gonna work on some of the tasks and just really enjoy the last few days of this 12-week course.
The past 12 weeks have been eye-opening, powerful, and transformative. I firmly believe that I had to start this journey at the time that I did. The artist way was just what I needed to fully come back to myself. It was the best way to start this new phase of my life. The book was packed with creative gems and wisdom that I will continue to reference and share with others. Since the beginning of my creative recovery, I went through a roller coaster of emotions, extracted many of my core negative beliefs and replaced them with more loving and positive ones, have learned to truly nurture my artist child within, experienced many beautiful synchronicities, have gained new and exciting opportunities for my art, and became more confident in speaking my truth. I felt like I was at the final stage of my metamorphosis. I had gone through a long resting period, moments of discomfort, shedding my old skin, and mourning my old self. I made space for this new version of me to emerge from the shadows and into the light. Now that I've completed this 12-week course, I've decided to continue doing morning pages and artist dates. These tools have been pivotal in my creative and spiritual journey. I wake up every morning eager to write on my morning pages. I get excited to go on artist dates, spend quality time with my creative self, and gain inspiration from my surroundings. Whether you're an artist or not, I believe these tools are essential in nurturing your inner child, expanding your creativity, and discovering more about yourself. This course has changed me in ways I can't fully articulate in words. The shift I felt was gradual but potent, and as I continue to show up to my morning pages and artist dates, the shift will eventually become more evident. I am so excited to continue expanding and evolving in the months and years to come.